What's up, everybody? This is Jose with Oakland Latinos United, aka Oakland Latinos Unidos, the voice of the Latino community in the Bay Area, California, Oakland, YouTube, and beyond. Well, I'm on here with a new video for you guys to enjoy. I haven't done a video in a couple weeks, actually, and wanted to make a video today because today is a anniversary of a very traumatic event that happened in the Bay Area that I remember very well. It was today, October 17th, is the 30th anniversary of the Loma Prieta Earthquake 7.0 that hit in 1989 at 5:04 p.m. I was 12 years old at the time, and it was just one of those days, kind of like 9/11, that I'll never forget, you know what I mean, as long as I live. And I'm going to talk about the anniversary, what happened, why I'm here on this intersection, and how the effects of that earthquake still haunt me to this day in some ways, if that makes sense. But basically, 30 years ago, 1989, this neighborhood right here we're in is West Oakland, and this street is called Mandela Parkway. We're right on the corner of 26th and Mandela Parkway. Back in those days, in 89, this was actually called Cypress Street. And right above you, right there, back in those days, there was a freeway there. It was a double-decker freeway. So it was two tiers, basically. The top part, imagine kind of like a sandwich, you know what I mean? One here and one here. So there was imagine there was a top part here and a low part here, right where you're looking at. And the top part, basically, when the earthquake happened, collapsed onto the bottom part, killing about 40-something people, you know what I mean? And it was one of the biggest disasters in the Bay Area history, and it was probably one of the events that killed the most people in that whole earthquake was the collapse right here that happened right here, right where we're looking at. So at 5:04 p.m., a 7.0 earthquake hit in 1989. I was 12 years old at the time, and I still remember I was going to go home to watch the baseball game because the World Series was going on. Those of you who remember, the A's were going to play the Giants, and me being from Oakland, I used to be a diehard A's fan. I still like the A's, and I wanted to go watch my team kick the Giants' ass. And I remember I was at the 7-Eleven on 29th Ave in the Fruitvale area by Jingletown. We used to live on Chapman Street, right around the corner from East 7th at the time. I was with my dad and my little sister. My little sister was like 6 then. She's 30-something now. And I remember my dad told me, "Está temblando." He told me in Spanish. And I looked at him like, I didn't feel nothing. I'm like, "Are you tripping or something?" And next thing you know, I started seeing the ground. It looked like waves, you know what I mean? And the cars were going up and down like lowriders damn near. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this is an earthquake. I remember I ran to the to the middle of the parking lot of the 7-Eleven with my dad, and we all held each other while the earthquake hit. You know what I mean? It was some scary shit, man. I remember the ground. Imagine the floor being like waves, you know what I mean? Like the ocean, like waves, like... That's what it looked like, I swear to God. And we didn't know much what happened because the lights went out. We got to the house, and everything in the house was all over the ground. And I remember my little Chihuahua. We had a Chihuahua back then named Jeffrey. He was under the bed, hiding. And there was no electricity. And we went to see if my mom was okay. And because she was at work. She used to work late night at this, not late night, but late shift at this rest home in Alameda. And she was okay, so we went back home, and by then the lights were on, and we were able to see basic TV, and we could see all the damage that had happened. You know, the Bay Bridge collapsed. Part of the Bay Bridge collapsed. The Marina District in San Francisco, the houses fell and burned there. You know, there was damage in Santa Cruz. People got killed out there. There was damage in Watsonville and San Jose. All over the Bay Area. But the main thing was the damage here in the Cypress, or Mandela Parkway as it's called now. So the freeway had collapsed. And it was a long freeway. I remember it clearly. I remember there when you would cross it, it used to feel like you were like, I don't know, it felt like your car was bumping. Like it was like it would shake when you were on that weird ass freeway. But yeah, man, a bunch of people died. And I remember particularly one Latino family a Mexican family that died because it was a lady named Becca Berumen. I remember her, and her kids, Kathy and Julio Berumen. And when the freeway collapsed, Becca got killed, and they had to cut the boy who was 6 years old at the time, Julio's leg off to get him out, and they got his sister out. But there was another lady in the car named Yolanda. I can't remember her last name. I can't remember her last name. I don't want to say it wrong. And she died as well in the car. And they actually had to cut her body in half to take the kid out of the car because the car was completely smashed. And yeah, man, my mom knew that lady Yolanda. That's a crazy thing. I remember that lady, actually. She came to my house a few times. My mom used to work with her. And yeah, unfortunately, she perished in the earthquake. And, it was a tragic day, man. And it was just one of those days that you feel death, you know what I mean? And you realize you're not immortal. And at any time you can go, or something crazy can happen and destabilize everything. I remember downtown Oakland in the distance you could see. I remember we went to downtown Oakland and it was damaged all over downtown Oakland. I remember there was broken windows everywhere. There was pieces of buildings that fell off. I mean, it was bad. It was pretty freaking bad. It looked like a war zone. You know what I mean? I remember all the freeways were shut down. The Bay Bridge was shut down. I remember there was traffic on the streets. You know what I mean? It was just like, how are people going to get home? The BART was closed down. And it just goes to show you, imagine if something like that happened now, that the Bay Area is so crowded with people now compared to those times. Imagine the clusterfuck and the destruction that would happen now, and the traffic delays and just sheer craziness that would happen if it happened today, you know? I mean, you have traffic on just any given day in the Bay Area now. In those days, traffic was only at rush hour. That I do remember. You know, it wasn't like traffic constantly every day like it is today. You know what I mean? But definitely when the earthquake happened, it definitely disrupted Bay Area traffic for sure. And yeah, you know, the irony of that freeway that collapsed was when they built it in the 50s, it only lasted 30 years. They destroyed the original Mexican neighborhood of West Oakland and many black neighborhoods to build the freeway. That's another thing. They destroyed it in order for white people could get to the suburbs to work. And the motherfucking thing collapsed 30 years later, killing hella people, man. And, the irony was the baseball game actually saved a lot of people's lives because a lot of people, there would have been a lot more traffic had the Bay Bridge, had the World Series not been going on. And, yeah, they say that because of the game, a lot of people stayed home to watch the game, or a lot of people left early to work because 5:04 is right at the height of rush hour when everyone's going home. But yet that day there wasn't as much traffic on the bridge or on the Cypress, the old freeway that used to be here, that would normally be, you know. And that earthquake changed the Bay Area forever. I mean, there was construction and remodeling that happened for years. They tore down many freeways that were unstable, like the Embarcadero Freeway in San Francisco. They tore down the freeway here, the Cypress, and built the one that's around the corner here. You see it back there? That's the replacement of the Cypress. If you can see, there's traffic on it. So that freeway actually is there because of the 89 earthquake, because the old one collapse. And if you look at that mural right there, that mural is a mural dedicated to the freeway that fell. You can see right there, that's the image of the freeway fell and fires and all that, and you can see a car stuck in the middle. So yeah, man, I mean, that was a tragic day. It killed a lot of people. It changed my life forever. Like I said, it's one of those days like 9/11 that changed my life forever, that, I got to see what life was like when a disaster happens, and I was in the middle of it, and I'll never forget that as long as I'm alive. And one thing this day makes me a little sad because my father was alive, and I remember I spent most of my day with my father that day because my mom had been working. So my dad was like, kind of like the nurturer that day, you know what I mean? He was the protection, you know what I mean? The one that made us feel like we're going to be okay. And he spent that whole day with us, And now that my dad's alive, this day really, like, I don't know. It's emotionally, it hits me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. But, yeah, man, like I said, it's just crazy, man. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. And even to this day, 30 years later, when I feel the ground shake even a little bit, I get a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie, I get nervous. Some might say it's like PTSD, but I get nervous whenever I'm in a building and I feel the building rattle a little bit. And, when the Napa earthquake hit in 2014, I felt it, and it fucking scared the fuck out of me because I knew it was a big one. Luckily, there was no damage out here in this area, but there was a lot of damage in Vallejo and in Napa area. That was in 2014, for those of you who remember. But yeah, man, like I said, it was just one of those days that you never forget. You have to be there to live it. If you lived it, if you were alive at that time and you were here in the Bay Area, no matter if you were in Oakland, San Francisco, the East Bay, the North Bay, you know what I mean, the Peninsula, San Jose, Watsonville, Santa Cruz, because those areas got hit hard by it too, because the epicenter was in the San Andreas Fault in Santa Cruz in a mountain called Loma Prieta. That's why it's called Loma Prieta Earthquake. But, and those of you who don't know, Loma Prieta means dark hill. But, yeah, man, that's just how it was. And it's crazy how now this neighborhood is getting gentrified. You know what I mean? All this area is getting gentrified. I mean, there's a lot of homeless encampments behind me, which I actually made a video about a while back. But this area is, I remember at that time, this was an industrial area. This was all factories. You know what I mean? And I remember when the freeway fell, all the workers, majority of them being Raza and blacks, and whites too, and Asians, came out to help rescue people from the collapsed freeway. You know what I mean? Actually, one of my dad's friends, this guy named William, jumped on the freeway. He was a Mexicano, to help people. You know what I mean? And he actually told OPD to fuck off because they told him, hey, you can't go up there. And he's like, hey, fuck you guys. Come help me rescue people and not leave me the fuck alone. I'm going up there. And he went up there to rescue people. And, yeah, a lot of people in the neighborhood came to rescue people. So it goes to show you, regardless if the neighborhood is the hood, a black or barrio, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. People are going to get together as humans and help other fellow humans, you know, when something like that happens. And I remember there was a rumor that went around. Some racist fucks were saying that people were actually stealing car stereos from the crushed cars under the freeway, which was a line of fucking horse shit. And whoever believes that should be a fucking ashamed of themselves. You know what I mean? Seriously. But, yeah, man, at that time, this was all a working class neighborhood, all factories, all warehouses. You know, it was mostly black and brown folks who worked in these factories. A lot of Latinos, a lot of brown folks helped the fire department rescue people. A lot of black folks as well. You know what I mean? It was one of those efforts where people came together to help people. And that's the important lesson. And the second lesson is, what the fuck are we going to do when another big one hits the Bay Area? Because it could happen. You know what I mean? It already happened in Napa in 2014. Who's to say it's not going to happen here? Or in LA, or in Sacramento, or anywhere, you know, even the Central Coast, you know what I mean? So, just think about that, man. So, this is Jose with Oakland Latinos United on October 17th, 2019, 30 years later. RIP to all those who died here. Peace.